Native people, Native culture, Native knowledge. Hi, I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you award-winning Heartbeat Alaska.
Bringing you national and international Native news, this is award-winning Heartbeat Alaska, the premier Native voice in Native programming.
There's a heartbeat louder than thunder. Revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool to care?
Now, with Heartbeat Alaska, here's Jeannie Green.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. Native news and Native information. I'm Jeannie Green. Thank you so very much for joining us. On today's program, we visit with Inupiaq elders Gideon Barr and his sister Bessie Barr. They visit their homeland, which is now known as the Bering Land Bridge National Preserve. I'll be back with our ancestors' heritage right after this.
How many times do I forgive my brother? He's done me wrong. How many times do I forgive him when he's broken my heart? How many times do I show him the
Heartbeat Alaska welcomes a brand new official hotel. The Longhouse Hotel, located at 4335 Wisconsin Street, offers 4 different styles of rooms, from standard to deluxe to grand to beautiful suites. They offer complimentary 24-hour airport shuttles and other amenities. Give them a call. The Longhouse, the new official hotel of Heartbeat Alaska. Heartbeat Alaska thanks Era Aviation for sponsoring us through our stories. Era Aviation, serving Anchorage, Cordova, Homer, Iliamna, Kenai, Kodiak, Valdez, Whitehorse, and 20 Western Alaska villages from Bethel. By the Nature Conservancy of Alaska, working with Alaska's rural communities to conserve and protect our natural heritage. Today, we take a journey back through time with Gideon Barr and his sister Bessie Barr as they look at their homelands through ancestral tales and traditions.
A mother's son was killed by a seal, so she took her knife, skinned the seal alive, and threw it back into the sea. The seal king punished her by causing a great flood. The water rose higher and higher until the village was completely covered by the sea. To this day, the destroyed village is beneath the sea. Only 2 hills stand above the water, and these are the islands of Big Diomede and Little Diomede.
As glaciers and large continental ice caps melted in warm periods between the ice ages, the bridge would flood and disappear as the ocean rose. When sea levels were low, the exposed land was similar to what remains today, a mosaic of tundra plain and marshes, rich foraging for the bridge's wildlife which traveled back and forth. Near the close of the last ice age, hunter-gatherers followed the game. Some stayed in the New World, rapidly colonizing the Americas to the tip of South America. They became the ancestors of today's North and South American Indians. Later, the ancestors of the Aleuts and Eskimos would follow. Today, the bridge is again flooded. There are 53 miles of ocean separating the Old World of Russia from the New World of Alaska. But the migrations continue, this time through the skies and seas. Millions of migrating birds cross the bridge in both directions to nest and fatten on the summer tundra. Bowhead, gray whales, and other sea mammals also migrate between the Pacific and Arctic Oceans through the rich feeding grounds of the Bering Strait. The Seward Peninsula of Alaska, the islands of the Bering Strait, and the Chukchi Peninsula of Siberia are parts of the land bridge that remain above the sea. The people who live here are the Inupiaq and Yupik Eskimo of North America and the Yupik Eskimo and Chukchi of Siberia.
And they go trading.
The lives of elders such as Gideon and Bessie Barr Cross bridge the gap between ancient and modern lifeways of their people. They are historians, keepers of their culture.
They don't make that too much down there. My name is Gideon K. Barr. My Eskimo name is Kaluk.
Bessie Barr was my maiden name. I was born at Cape Espenberg, March 11, 1921. And I wasn't born in the hospital. I was born at home.
I was born July 21, 1917. I was born right back in here, right back here. And I grew up with my father. Yeah, my father is Siuipta Paitaat. He showed me how the world was forming up higher and higher. He can guess pretty much just how long it takes to build that high, from dust to dust.
I can imagine that if I were born as Shishmaref, that I'd be a person much like Gideon. I'd be driven as he is. I am driven by what seems to me just a compelling necessity for me to preserve knowledge.
Ancient sediments tell us about the people who lived during the past 12,000 years on both sides of the land bridge and who shared many of the same traditions and lifestyles. Because of the scientific and cultural value of Burundia, the Bering Land Bridge National Preserve was established in 1980. Plans are underway to create a United States and Russian Burundian Heritage International Park. It will unite a new Russian park in Siberia with the United States National Parks in Northwest Alaska. This international park will preserve on both sides of the flooded land bridge the long record of past and changing landscapes and biotas, along with the archaeological sites, cultural traditions, and lifestyles of its people.
A pair of mittens. In the days when Cape Espenberg was just a floating ground and the deep water flowed underneath it, the mother of the great hunter Inupiaq heard that her son had been killed. She decided to get even with those who killed him and punish all people. She made this ground shallow so no whales could travel through it by filling up her mitten with sand and throwing it into the ocean. The sand spilled out, creating sandbars and beaches. Now the tip of Espenberg is all solid ground and shallow.
Inupiaq was a great hunter who killed a big whale from his kayak and placed its skull and jawbone near his home at the tip of Cape Espenberg.
That whale he caught looked kind of big to him, and he didn't think that he would get that size of whale again. So he decided to, well, if I put the head up on the mainland and one side of a jawbone, and so my ancestors would believe that I got that whale, that size, from my kayak. That's why he left that whale head behind. Cape Espenberg was a real close place to hunt sea mammal in springtime. And that's why my father's ancestors were living there from generation to generation.
It is a vast territory rich with good hunting, fishing, and food gathering sites, supporting native people for over 10,000 years.
I'm glad about my good hunting days. My father taught me how to hunt, and I have to pass it on to my kids. He said you got to learn how to use a seal net, fish net, snares, all of those things like that.
The women were the ones that go and get the wood while the men are out ugruk hunting and seal hunting. And we take care of these things by dog team, and there was no snow machines, no nothing in.
When I get to be an active hunter, I realized that I gotta have dog feed on hand. So I would try to hunt all of my food for dog feed and for ourselves. As long as I put away 8 walruses, I always feel safe. I got enough dog feed for the winter now. Dogs do a lot of work for us. It's part of a family.
We do things as a group. The one who has a lot of ugruk to cut, then their neighbors who have less to do would come over and help them. And it isn't just the meat and blubber we eat. We preserve a lot of vegetables, greens that we pick from the earth.
You have to watch what goes.
Like surah, and we pick sourdocks, berries.
They watch the land. The land helped them for food. They put away anything that is edible for the coming winter. That's the way our ancestors was raised. Before white man food time, they have mighty tough times sometimes. Some people starving even. But so far, my ancestors, they say, they all have been doing fine.
The Inupiaq ancestors lived with the land and the animals. There was no hierarchy with the people at the top ruling lesser life forms. There were no boundaries between animal spirits, human spirits, and the spirits of nature. All were respected equally and were part of the same life force.
They put all the bones together. They burn it up when the wind is lightly blowing from south. And that means any animal that was taken from the ocean to the shore, when they're done with it, they send the soul out back to the ocean. Yeah, that's what my father believed. It's from our ancestors.
And then from that, the animals say they take good care of our remains, and we go back and be caught by them again.
Yeah, that's the main point. I know my father always just hunt what you can take care of. Never waste it. If you happen to hunt more than you can take care of right now, bury some of them underground. That'll keep for winter use, either for dogs or for the humans. We have to learn all that from our ancestors.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more of our ancestors' heritage right after these messages. Did you know that one remote Alaska Native village with an average household income of only $5,734 annually harvested per person 1,139 pounds of fish, birds, wildlife, and plants? Another interesting fact from Heartbeat, Alaska.
Are you too cool to care?
Hey, what's up?
What's up, guys?
Do you have an innie or an outie?
Innie all the way, dude.
I have an innie.
I got one. Okay, this is really nasty though.
Okay.
Would you guys rather eat like a maggot-filled pie or go to school completely naked?
Naked. Hey, you know what would be funny? I don't want that. If someone like pierced their outie.
When I smoked, it was tough just taking a walk or even exercising. Dancing was difficult. Sometimes just taking a breath was hard. Now that I don't smoke, I feel a lot better. It wasn't easy to quit smoking. but it's made a huge difference in my life. Jay Cummins, we can do it.
Brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alaska, Merck, and Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium.
That whalehead is still there at the point. My father and his brother, Siuipta, I think they roll it up twice when it gets so close to a place where it's eroding down before it fell down. They want the ancestors to keep on seeing it.
Part of Gideon and Bessie's early childhood was spent in Ublasan, Crack of Dawn, an old seal hunting site west of Cape Espenberg on the coast of the Chukchi Sea. It became a reindeer herder's winter village in the early 1920s when the tundra moss was overgrazed at Cape Espenberg. Ublasan and other coastal sites are rapidly eroding and will be gone in a short time. Remnants of house and cache structures used nearly 200 years ago are all that remain. Most traces of its earlier occupations are now lost to the sea.
We lose a lot of land out here. We lose a lot of land from erosion. The old site that was built way ahead of us, which the history we don't even hear about. There's an old house someplace right here.
It's right up here.
Gee, real hard to trace this old building. Must have been pretty old.
They dig a hole first off.
Huh?
They dig a hole.
Yeah. According to what they tell us, towards the sun, there's a window.
What was it made out of?
Ugruk intestine sewed together.
And on this main frame of the work, there's a rawhide snare tied up into that log on the main frame. So when the bear is trying to reach down with his arm
Through the window?
Through the window, all they do is just open that snare and let his arm go through and tighten it. And there he's tied up for good. They go out and use bow and arrow or spears to kill it.
All the old houses along here are gone.
Oh, yeah.
To the ocean, aren't they?
But these are new old houses over here. Siuipta's his last one. Untitled, James Moses and his dad, Edred and his brother, and Peter Barr, and Lloyd Kunduk, Gordon Dimmick, and us.
Gideon's ancestors waged war and traded with their neighbors on both sides of the Bering Strait. More war than trade took place until the 1700s. Trade increased early in the 19th century when the first exploring, trading, and whaling ships arrived, lured by the promise of enormous profits. Gideon's family lived in Cape Espenberg. Isolated from the larger trading centers, he didn't see his first white man until the mid-1920s, when he was 5 years old.
First time I hear white men talking, and he said, all he do is talk about dollars and hundreds. Those two what I learned first, white men word, because that was the first time I've seen a white man talking, but never understand the word. But he always say hundreds of dollars.
Ships from exotic ports began to sail the Bering Strait, and trouble soon followed. By the 1870s, sea mammal slaughter, the collapse of the caribou herd, and diseases brought by the traders resulted in native hardship and starvation. Alaska's purchase from Russia brought changes to the Eskimo way of life by introducing a new economy from reindeer herding, missions, and schools. Reindeer herding was a traditional lifestyle for the Chukotka Eskimos at the other end of the bridge, but it wasn't introduced to Alaska Eskimos until 1892 by missionaries and teachers to prevent periodic famine and to bring civilization to the Eskimos.
I had to take care of the reindeers when I grew up to be old enough. Somebody got to be with the herd day and night. I like it. You could used to, just like the way I feel. It's just like part of my family. They go so many, maybe 275,000, and Seward Peninsula was too small when they get into that number. And then the moss is eaten out, and most of it is covered with snow, too deep. So that's when they starved out.
Change is a daily part of life in Burundia. The change of seasons, the change of weather. Food sources decline in one area and increase in another. Life begins, life ends.
Let us pray. Holy God, mighty Lord, gracious Father, we give you thanks for in the beginning your Spirit moved over the waters, and you created heaven and earth.
Many of the old villages scattered along the Bering Strait coast are lost to the sea. And now the sea reaches out to claim Shishmaref.
When I first started coming down here in Shishmaref, that school used to be way back up here. But now, eroding away. Now they have to try to put seawall and all that stuff to protect the village, because it's eroding away. That's something that I can see, that they lost a lot of land on the beach. Big storms like fall time, that's what hurts the land.
With the melting of the ice curtain between Russia and the United States, families and friends on each end of the Bering Land Bridge are no longer kept apart. Today, people cross the Bering Strait striving to renew commercial and cultural ties. A dramatic monument to this era of peace and reunion will be the Burundian Heritage International Park, protecting the history of the land and people, preserving lifeways, species, and gene pools, and protecting the spectacular beauty and richness of life of the Bering Strait and land of the Bering Land Bridge. The challenge will be to include the needs and desires of the people who live on both sides of the bridge, honoring their traditional lifestyles and dreams for the future.
Don't go away. We have much more of our ancestors' heritage right after this.
What kind of a car is that?
This winter, a very small BP film crew hit the road in a very small car.
Yeah, I heard you guys are in town.
A very colorful car.
Hey, nice car.
And over the course of a few weeks in all kinds of conditions, they met some very colorful Alaskans.
How much you want for this thing? I think I got $23.50 left in the bank.
BP figured the best way to find out what folks were thinking was to get out and ask them.
Hi, how you doing?
Real good. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. If you could ask BP any question, what would it be?
All right. I'd like to know if they're going to continue exploring and how much they're going to do.
I'd just like to know, is BP really concerned about the environment?
Yeah, the one question I have, I want to know if I have any hair left.
That's a real good question.
In the next few weeks, you'll be meeting Alaskans from Moose Pass to Gakona. They'll be asking questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. So stay tuned. Happy trails, and we'll see you soon.
How many times do I forgive my brother? He's done me wrong. How many times do I forgive him when he's broken my heart? How many times do I show him the love of Jesus? Over and over and over and over again.
Thank you so much, National Park Service, for your help in that story. We thank you for contributing news to Heartbeat Alaska viewers. And thank you for joining us. God bless every single one of you, and we'll see you again next week.
Times about forgiving you.